Hello, I'm Felice Tocchini. I'm here to show something Italian with this wonderful product, sweet potato. They're packed full of vitamin C, slow release carbohydrates, so it means that they keep you fuller for much longer. Incredibly versatile, fairly inexpensive. You can pick them up almost any day nowadays. You can eat them raw, you can make cakes with them, you can really do all sorts of different things. But today we're going to make some gnocchi. Gnocchi is a form of pasta, the simplest form of pasta, because you don't need to use pasta machine or anything. No. Just put it together. And they're fairly similar to sort of dumplings in this country. But I'll show you how simple it is. And these are the sweet potato we're going to use for our main course, the gnocchi. And as you might have spotted already, I roasted them a little earlier on. Next ingredients, we're going to use some eggs, some Parmesan cheese, a little bit of nutmeg for flavor, a little bit of black pepper, salt, and of course flour. First thing, I'll say make sure that they cool down. What we're going to do, split them in half, and then we're going to scoop out all the flesh. And if you visit lovesweetpotatoes.com, you can find this recipe. But for this one in particular, roughly you need to use about 1/3 of flour and 2/3 of potato. It more or less works. You could rice them, you could mash them, you could do all sorts of things. We can simply use a spoon and chop them up a little bit. And then we're going to put the Parmesan, 1 egg yolk, a little bit of black pepper, a pinch of salt, of course some nutmeg, and then the flour. Now is the fun bit, really. Put your hands in, squash everything together. So if the potatoes are cooked enough, you don't really need to put them through a ricer, because they simply just mash with your fingers. It looks a bit messy, but it's great fun. If you've got kids, get them to make it. And the beauty with gnocchi, you don't actually need to have a pasta machine to finish it off. The only thing you got to do is make sure that all the ingredients are pushed together. It looks a bit messy, but you can't really have great cooking without being a little messy. And you can actually change the consistency of the gnocchi by adding more or less flour. The more flour you add to it, the chewy the gnocchi will become. The less you put in, the more softer they'll be. And as soon as they stay together, just put in a little mound, little more flour on the table, cut a slice out. We're going to add a little more flour, just pat it down and cut it into little strips. Now the beauty with gnocchi that you can actually make them and freeze them. Big batch in a tray, and I'm going to show you in a second with a cloth underneath, and put them in the freezer. You would actually cook them from frozen, let alone. Let's roll them together. And you can make them really as little or as thick as you like. Simply chop them up. A little extra flour. Be very gentle at this stage. You need to add enough flour so they don't stick together, okay? But try always to use a spatula or a knife to lift them up. If you try to use your finger, the only thing you're going to do is just squash them together. And then put them in a tray. You need to put a cloth underneath. The reason being, if you use cling film or anything else, the humidity of the gnocchi will make them stick to the bottom of the tray. The cloth allows air to be at the bottom, and so they will not stick. And if you had to freeze them, you would actually freeze them on the tray as they stand now. Once they're frozen, you can then box them up, and you will cook them from frozen. Boiling water, a little bit of salt, straight into the water. It will take about 1.5 minutes longer than normal. It's incredibly, incredibly quick to make. And really, if you want to, you can cheat and you can even put the sweet potato into the microwave. I don't recommend it, but if you're really tight for time and you cannot do it, you can always sort of go down that road. And that's it. That's our little gnocchi, ready to be cooked. We're now going to make the sauce, clean my hands, clean my mess. Let's run through the ingredients. And we have some prawns, we've got some garlic, some ginger, some chilli or not, some butter, some rocket, a little bit of pepper, wine for me to drink. No, actually it's for the sauce, we're going to use some. Okay, and then we're going to cook the gnocchi as well. The sauce is going to take just slightly longer than the gnocchi to cook, so we're going to start the sauce first. Garlic, be a little violent with it. Nice stress relief. Skins off. And we're going to need a couple of them. If you love garlic, put lots of it. The other trick is you don't have to chop it. You can put big chunks into it and then fish it out if you want to. But we're going to slice it up. We're then going to add some chilli. And again, it depends how hot they are and how much you love chilli. It can be a lot or very little or none at all. And this is not necessarily the only sauce you can do for the gnocchi. You can always use tomato sauce, a little bit of butter and sage, bolognese if you want, or you can play with your favorite sauce. We're going to add some butter into the pan, okay? In goes the garlic and chilli. And just make sure that you don't burn not the butter, not the garlic or the chilli either. We could chop the prawns into pieces. I think it's a main course. We want something to bite into it. So we add the prawns to it. I'm going to leave them whole. Moving on to the gnocchi. Water is boiling. We're going to need a little salt into it. And then very, very delicately, we're going to drop the gnocchi in. Now you can do it by hand, or you can use a spatula, entirely up to you. But try not to squash them together. They will cook fairly quickly. And then just drop them in. And either with a wooden spoon or a silicone spatula, try not to use stainless steel spoons. It's going to break the gnocchi as they cook along. And always make sure that you got plenty water. If you haven't got enough water, the gnocchi are going to stick together. It's just simple as that. A little stir, and we go back to the sauce. Prawns cook very, very quickly. And you've got to be careful not to overcook the prawns because they go rubbery otherwise. We then want to add a little bit of ginger. And what we're going to do is just peel it up and just cut it into little strips. And again, with the ginger, if you love it, you put a lot of it. If you don't put any of it. Very important, don't use the powder. It just simply doesn't work in this dish. I'm Italian, but I love my ginger, so there's got quite a bit in it. Then, time for a drink. Little bit of wine. And we're going to put some rocket leaves. It could be dandelion if you want to. If you pick dandelion from the garden, make sure that you haven't sprayed with weed killer beforehand. Yeah. And really, what we want to do is just it to wilt down. The prawns are cooked, so we could add a little bit of black pepper. You got to be careful because we already put some chili into it, so be careful that don't make it too spicy. And then we go back to the gnocchi. They're bubbling away nicely. And what we want them is just to rise to the top of the water. When they rise to the top, they are cooked. So it's going to be another few seconds on that. Let's tidy up my mess as we go along. Let's get ready to plate. We're just going to add just a touch more butter to the sauce. And what we're going to do, fire off. We're going to shake the butter into it. So everything will be brought together. The wine, the juice from the prawns, and the smell is fantastic. Gnocchi are now at the top, so it means they are cooked. Lift them off into the sauce. Nothing simpler than this one, is it? And then You can sort of do a little bit of play, but if you're not so brave, you can always use a spoon. Mix it together. Smells fantastic. Let's plate it up. And there they are. Gnocchetti with prawns, ginger, rocket and chilli. Simple as that. Enjoy it.